neither snow nor rain nor sleet nor hail apparently could keep Americans from their shopping malls. Retail sales numbers continue to rise despite some pretty severe weather around the country. David Abella is portfolio manager over at Rochdale Investment Management. He joins us now with his take on the retail sector. David, great to have you back with us. Retail. Are you surprised by these numbers?
Yeah, I think everyone was surprised by the numbers. I mean, there was some expectation that February would be a good month, but everyone, like 80% of the retailers beat the numbers, and it was a very strong number across the board.
Does it make sense because of the weather?
Well, that was a headwind, so when you consider that, the retail consumer was even stronger. And I think it's a definite sign, you had a strong January and a strong December, that the consumer is a little healthier and in a better spirit.
How do we actually understand this? I mean, the weather expected to keep people out of work. Certainly nobody was walking around the streets of New York in any of the stores when we had the big snowstorms here. How are they going out and spending so much more? I saw Victoria's Secret month over month, 10%. How do you get such a big jump?
Well, in a certain sense, old habits die hard. And even though we are coming out of a recession and unemployment is still high, there's been a lot of pent-up demand. The consumer has not spent that much in the last year and a half. And they're slowly returning to their old ways of spending. People that do have a job do feel on more secure footing.
And that's why the numbers, I mean, kind of across the board. I was kind of surprised by some of the department store chains, their numbers, and they've been having a really, really tough time. Those numbers were coming in okay. Yeah,
those numbers were coming in okay. And actually, the interesting thing was Target and even some of the warehouses, Costco and BJ, their numbers weren't as good or more food-driven. So there was definitely a substitution where people said, you know what, I'm not just buying food this month. I'm going to go out and treat myself to something. And that was across the country.
What about discounts? I mean, is this a case that retailers are marking everything down like they typically would during a Christmas season in the month of February, or have they managed to keep prices level?
Well, inventory was good, and they didn't have to discount too much in February. I do think price points have come down. That is a strategic thing that everyone's been doing from like the higher end, like Saks, on down, where they just get the stuff cheaper in the store off the bat, so they don't have to mark it down. But they didn't have to discount further in February.
Let me ask you, is it too early to start talking about March in terms of what you expect here?
Well, not necessarily. March is expected to be a good month, so that's baked in, and retail stocks are not. They're pretty fairly valued. They have a pretty good run off their low, so there is expectation March will be good.
And the shift of Easter always affects at least what retailers say as far as their sales. It's coming fairly early this year. What does that mean? People go out and buy a new pair of jeans for Easter?
Well, it'll drive.
I never get this, the shift in Easter. Do people buy a lot of new stuff for Easter besides eggs?
Well, it'll affect more Target and Walmart type sales. It won't necessarily the specialty apparel, but it's a shift. But barring that shift, the real story is that the consumer is definitely starting to spend again. Savings rate has balanced out to 5%, not the 10% everyone feared. And as long as the economy continues to improve, I think the retail customer will continue to shop.
Having said that, we'll get a good check on the economy tomorrow when we get that monthly jobs report. Depending on what those headline numbers are, David, could they spook consumers again, and that trickles down to how it plays out in retail?
Well, they could. And certainly if it started to uptick a lot more and people that were employed start to worry, oh, I wasn't worried 6 months ago, but now I'm worried again. But companies are slowly starting to, there was an article the other day, undo pay cuts that happened last year. So there is starting to be brighter hope of the employed. The next leg, though, for retail needs to be unemployment coming down.
What does it mean when the teen retailers do so well? I mean, I don't expect that any teens are sitting around desperately waiting for the non-farm payrolls numbers, right? So what affects their confidence?
Well, I think teen apparel was so weak for so long that was a pent-up demand case. And that teen unemployment is still pretty high, but I think parents, in terms of the allowance to the teenager, that helped a lot. But that was the most surprising number, and that's why the teen apparel companies were up so much today.
Just got about 20 seconds here, David. So if you were suggesting to an investor how to play the retail, what would be your favorite areas here?
Well, we had a barbell approach where we were defensive with Walmart and then more discretionary names like Coach and Nordstrom and even a Best Buy. I think actually, though, Target will do better than a Walmart if you want that defensive part of the barbell. So those would be names we'd like.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. David Abella from Rochdale Investment Management. We're going to take